Hi, Sanam.
Hi, Kelly.
What are we here to talk about today?
Well, welcome everybody. We are here to talk about safety.
Safety. So, why are we talking about safety today?
Well, September is actually Realtor Safety Month.
Realtor Safety Month. So we decided to go live both on YouTube and on Facebook.
Hi,
So hi, we have two
guys.
screens going on because this is an important topic because safety comes into play in a lot of different ways in a real estate transaction.
It 100% does. There's three topics in particular that we're going to touch on today.
Yeah. The first one is personal safety. So safety of your physical person during a transaction.
Yes. The second would be financial safety.
Financial safety, how to make good financial choices that don't come your money,
funds to closing.
and funds to closing. And what's the third?
The third would be your identity.
Identity. So, as you guys know, identity theft is on the rise these days. So, how can we help prevent it in a real estate transaction?
Yeah. So, whether you're buying or selling, know what you're dealing with on the other side.
Absolutely. I think, for you as a realtor, right, is that one of the hardest parts of this transaction is you're meeting strangers every day.
We do. I have actually shifted my business where most of my business comes from just people that I know or people who know people that, the referrals. But in the beginning, it's not always the case. And if you're spending money on advertising and strangers are calling, you don't know who you're meeting with.
Yeah. And so, right, you could be showing up at a vacant house, meeting a stranger you've never met before by yourself. And that can be a little scary.
It is. There are actually, there are a lot of crimes that happen every year, both to male and female realtors, where they need to take special precautions. I know in our office, we talk about that. It's if you are a buyer and you call a realtor just out of the blue and you want to meet with them, and they invite you into their office, it's a good idea to go. Both for you and for them. It's a safe space. It's a public space. And if they ask you for your ID, don't be
weirded out by it. It's not weird. They just want to make sure you are who you say you are.
Exactly.
And it's not that they're trying to put you through hoops before you go see a house. Again, it's for everybody's safety. Now, buyers on the same token can deal with this as well. And a lot of times it's with those for sale by owner, Craigslist type listings. What is your advice for those?
So, when it comes to Craigslist, if it's supposedly listed by a realtor, do your homework. Make sure that you're actually contacting the realtor. We were just talking before we went on live. We had a listing in Manchester a couple ago. We had it on the market. Seller decided they wanted to rent it out for the year instead. So we put it up for rent, got it rented out right away. A couple weeks after those renters moved into the property,
they were already there, living there.
I got a phone call asking, when am I going to get my keys, from some stranger that I had never met or spoken to before. I was definitely taken back, and I was like, I'm sorry, who are you?
Yeah, who are you? I already have my renters.
I've been vetted. They're living there now. And she proceeded to tell me that she found our listing on Craigslist, called the number on Craigslist, physically met somebody, walked around the property. And I asked why she didn't go inside the property. And she said, oh, she was told that work was being done.
Red flag.
So she didn't physically go in the property. And she proceeded to give this person a substantial deposit, which she no longer has access to.
Yeah.
That's horrible.
Horrible. And how scary, you met the stranger. This is obviously a criminal because they stole your money.
Yes.
But could, be worse. I had a buyer who had an agent, but decided to kind of go around the agent, and they went to go see a for sale. They contacted the person directly. It was on Zillow, and the guy it was not a safe situation. He clearly had some issues. The house had issues. He followed them around when he asked them, are you going to make an offer? And they said no. He got really aggressive with them. And he had their phone number because they had made this arrangement. And he started harassing them, calling them. And we're like, if you had only gone through your agent, this guy would have no way to contact you.
Yeah.
He would have had no way to contact you. It was definitely an unsafe situation.
Yeah. Once in a blue moon, it's funny when I tell my agents this, their jaws drop. We'll get phone calls from people wanting to sell their house, but it's not their house. I've actually walked into a situation where it was a renter attempting to sell their house, assuming that I just wouldn't figure it out.
You're like, there's something called title. We eventually figure out who really owns the house.
Yeah, but they can even just skim off the top, $500 here or $100 here. It's money in their pockets. And the people that are subject to these unfortunately, that are subject to being taken advantage of, like they lose out.
Yeah. So first advice is be careful. Use the same common sense that you use in the rest of your life when dealing with real estate. Don't meet strangers. Don't take candy from strangers.
No, even if it looks really
Even if it looks really
yummy.
good, vet people. Google is a great tool.
Yeah.
Ask around, look people up. There is a lot of ways to keep yourself safe. GAR is a great example. You can go
Yes.
through local realtor boards, look up realtors to make sure they're legitimate.
Yes.
And always, if you are looking at something on Craigslist, cross-check it with
Also,
other
it
websites.
seems too good to be true.
It is.
Probably is. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So financial safety, this is where I come into play.
Yes.
Financial safety. So I think the kind of hot topics with financial safety and mortgages, you've probably heard of wire fraud before. That's probably the most common place that financial issues happen on the mortgage side of a transaction. So wire fraud is as part of a transaction, right? You have your closing funds. You're going to wire them to your attorney. And wire fraud is where a third party intercepts these emails between the attorney and you, the client, and then they will essentially make a fake email address that looks like your attorney's email address.
Very much like your attorney.
Write an email, looks like it's coming from your attorney, and give you wire instructions. And usually it's to like some foreign country. And you will go wire your money off to this person. And once a wire is gone, my friends, it is gone.
Yeah.
There's really no way to get it back. So that is a huge issue in real estate.
It started happening a few years ago.
It's gotten a lot better
Yes.
because people a lot better. So a few just quick tips, and your attorney will tell you this as well, is before you wire money to your attorney, you are going to have a phone conversation with them to confirm all the wire instructions. Okay. So you're never going to take wire instructions via email. And even over the phone, you are going to be the one to initiate the phone call.
Make sure it's your actual attorney's office,
Yeah.
not just the one that you see in the email signature.
Yeah. Don't call that number. You're going to call your attorney who you know, and you're going to speak to them.
Yeah.
The other thing that happens sometimes in the mortgage side of the transaction, and I just did a video about it the other day, is when your credit is pulled for a mortgage, and actually when your credit is pulled for anything, car loans, credit cards, something is produced, and it's called a trigger leave. And what that is Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion essentially sell off the information that you're trying to finance something.
That sounds horrible.
Yep, they sell it off, and then essentially lenders buy that information, and then they try to steal the deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So many people know after you apply for a mortgage, you're going to get a million phone calls from a million mortgage companies. Most of them are legitimate, and they're just going to try to woo you away from your current lender. But there are some really unscrupulous ones that what they'll do is they will pretend they are your lender. Oh, hi, Betty Sue. I'm working with your mortgage company. I just need some information from you. Can you give me your name, your email, your social, all this stuff? And then they essentially take a mortgage application from you, and then they try to just convince you they're your lender. And borrowers fall for this all the time. And then we call them and they're like, oh, I already did that paperwork. And we're like, with who? Yeah. So if you're talking to somebody other than your loan officer, just make sure you've confirmed with your loan officer that those people work for them and they're not some third-party company.
Yeah. And then also, like, if you are meeting with a realtor, that no realtor should be collecting your information. If they are
their financial information.
Yeah, your financial information, because I don't see any of that. It has nothing to do with me. I just need the green light from my lender saying we look good.
Yeah.
But there are some people, again, that do unscrupulous activity and they take your information. Realtors are not prepared to protect all your identity. Like I would never want that in my possession. But if somebody asks you for it outside of your person who's financing your loan for you, do not give it to them. They don't need to see your personal financial information.
Yeah. Now your lender does.
Your lender 100%
and we
does.
do, just so people know, we do ask for a lot. Bank statements with full account numbers, tax returns, W-2s, pay stubs. And we do sometimes get people who feel like a little uncomfortable.
It's invasive.
It's invasive, but we are licensed. So we are licensed to take this information. We are held to really rigorous standards on what we do with your information. So as long as you trust your lender, you are good. Now, I say you trust your lender because a lot of people are looking for a good deal and they find kind of really unknown small lenders online. Oh, I Googled this and I found a low rate at this company. Those may not be super legit. So you just want to make sure that you're working with a known entity, right? Somebody who knows what they're doing, that has a good reputation, because they are going to look at a lot of very invasive documentation with personal information on it that you don't want to end up in the wrong hands.
No. And actually, it's funny that you mentioned the trigger report or whatever, where your information is sold. I've had clients come up with these letters on letterhead where like somebody will offer to lend them money, maybe a little bit more than what the standard going interest rate is, but not as high as like the hard money lenders, but that they can have the money in just a few days. And like with basically no scrubbing at all, and they'll believe it. And I will look and I'm like, who is this? Like, what is this? And I'm like, this is not even a legit company.
Yeah.
So you will get mail. Disregard most.
Yeah. And like if you get a apply for a mortgage, if you get a pre-approval in the mail saying you're pre-approved up to $500,000 with this mortgage company, but you've never spoken to that person, they have not taken an application, they have not pulled your credit, not legit. It's just a sales tactic.
Yeah. And then also when it comes time for like your earnest money deposits, with that check, because you have to give a check with your contract, hand deliver it.
Yep.
Or if you're going to mail it, send it certified mail. So you're literally handing it to the, post office with tracking and all that information. Whitewashing is no joke.
Yep.
There's actually somebody in my office had whitewashing done with their checks. And then one of our local brokers in Hartford, she had it.
Yeah.
It's so scary.
It is. And people steal checks out of mailboxes.
That's what it is.
Outgoing mail. Yep.
At the post office in front, they dropped it in the post office.
Somebody stole the checks
Somebody fished it out.
So the next segue for this is great. And it's identity theft. So identity theft is a real issue.
Yes.
And it happens really in any major financial transaction. There is a risk involved. There are a couple of things that you can do to protect yourself. The number one thing is to have your credit frozen when you are done with your transaction.
Frozen?
Yep. You cannot complete the action with your credit frozen.
No.
So you do have to unfreeze it while we are doing it, the mortgage. And then the moment we're done, you can freeze it again. And I really do recommend that. Like I'm the same way. My credit's frozen just because it does prevent people from taking out credit in your name. The other thing that you should do is pull your credit somewhat regularly. You can do the free report that comes once a year, but I actually recommend going to myfico.com and paying. I know people are like, why would I pay if I could get a free one? The paid ones really are more comprehensive.
Yep.
So you just want to make sure nobody has, taken out anything in your name. And then the other thing that is happening rampantly right now, especially if you're here in Connecticut, hello, my Connecticut friends, is there's a huge issue currently in Connecticut with unemployment claims.
Happened to my best friend.
It just happened to me.
Oh,
so I have somebody who's currently collecting unemployment in my name.
Wonderful.
And I found out actually from a former employer, they reached out to me and they're like, hey, we just got an unemployment claim from you. And I was like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
So I put in a thing, but it does happen. So you just really need to be vigilant about your credit.
Yeah.
And part of that is not applying a million lenders.
Yes.
So that the more people who have your information, the bigger risk you're at.
Yeah.
So again, a lot of those unscrupulous online cheap lenders that people find, you're giving them a lot of personal information.
It's a lot of information.
And you just want to be careful with that. You want to make sure you've vetted them. Again, you do have to give lenders things like your social security number and your date of birth, because we have to cross check it against a lot of other information. You just don't want to do it, and we do get borrowers who do it like, oh, I've had 10 other lenders check my information. And I'm like, I'm worried about your credit, number one, but I'm also worried that you've now given really personal information to 10 other people.
So actually, speaking on that real quick, I know your company has taken proper measures to make sure that when somebody applies, all their information is kept confidential and only the eyes that need to see it
Correct.
are seeing it. Do you want to touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So number one, the company that I work for, we do not sell any of your information. So that there are companies that there's a disclosure that you have to sign as part of a mortgage package that explains this. But a lot of companies don't they just kind of ignore it. Like it's there and you just sign it, but you're like, what are you really doing with it? So we don't sell any of your information, number one. Number two, we have to abide by a very strict confidentiality kind of clause in the paperwork that we do. So anything that is collected must be disposed of appropriately. If it is originals, must be returned back to the borrower, again, either in person or via certified mail. All of your data, your information is all insured and protected. And that really allows borrowers to feel comfortable in giving the information. Yeah, we have a secure portal. It's a banking portal that we use. So if people are uploading documentation in a secure site, you don't want to and there are lenders that use Gmail. Well, if you're emailing from Gmail to Gmail, there's protection there.
Yeah.
So you just want to make sure that you're always you know where you're sending stuff.
Yeah.
I also really do encourage people, like if your lender is using a Gmail, a Hotmail, a Yahoo, that's kind of a red flag. They should be using a real email address because again, it's with a protected server behind it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And then I'm just going to quickly touch on a couple things while house hunting.
Yeah.
Real quick, and then we'll hop off. But like, it's starting to get dark out a little bit sooner. If you are going out with people, like have your flashlight if it happens to get dark, because it's always better to look at a house during the light.
Yep.
For my sellers out there, I love door knocking. We were talking about this earlier, but if you do get a realtor who door knocks, you can Google them and just confirm and verify that the person at your door is in fact the person that they say that they are. I actually just recently had a situation where one of my sellers told me that somebody had been door knocking in the neighborhood, which is great. So I contacted that person because of my upcoming listing, and she had no idea what I was talking
So it was
about.
not her, somebody using her name.
It was not her. Yeah. How scary is that? So, just be safe. If you walk into a situation and you feel uncomfortable,
Get out.
I've walked away from showings. Like we've showed up at some places and I'm like, I just don't feel comfortable. And you follow your gut. So
Absolutely. So in honor of Realtor
Safety
Safety
Month,
Month, stay safe,
stay
be
safe.
smart, ask questions, use Google
yes,
to get some information.
get verified.
Make sure people are real. And
Yes.
yeah, if you need anything, you can reach out to us. We're happy to help.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for
Thank
watching.
you.
Bye.
Bye.